Hey, guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a story of what if Naruto trained seriously, after the Sasuke retrieval arc. After Naruto and Sasuke's fight at the Valley of the End, Naruto has an epiphany, and everything he thought about changes. Now during his training trip with Jiraya, the blonde trains like crazy, returning to the village, 2.5 years later, as a new shinobi. One who vows to protect the village even if it costs his life. However, those who knew his usual nature wished he didn't change. Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, it means a lot to me, and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic. Now let's start the story. Chapter 7 Anbu Rescue. Being located near the desert, the sun was scorching hot and the sound of the waterfall falling on the small river would send anyone to eternal bliss at the thought of escaping the hot temperature, hence why one pervert was seen with only his belly on top of the water level, like he was on one hell of a vacation. He was hoping to enjoy every single moment of the last couple of days he had, before he and Naruto had to leave the place. Thinking hard, Jiraiya couldn't figure out the next step of Naruto's training. A year and a half already passed and Naruto managed to learn quite a lot. His taijutsu skills were propelled, bearing, easily, the skills of a high-level chunin. Naruto even managed to create a new taijutsu style that relies heavily on wind element, which surprised both Sojiro and Jiraiya at the time. Also he improved his bow staff style a lot, to which Jiraiya himself reasoned him to be on par with a chunin from the Sarutobi clan and maybe, rival a Junin at the end of their journey. Also, the boy's chakra-related training progressed nicely, with him being almost immune to genjutsu attacks and just added close to 10 Fuden jutsus on his repertoire. Jiraiya chuckled upon remembering Naruto's new temporary sensei gasping at the speed in which Naruto learned the jutsus, and the man really thought the blonde to be a genius. However, that was only possible because of the blonde's Kage Bunshin style of training. The question remained, though, about the next step. Jiraiya had a couple of choices to teach Naruto about, which was introducing him to the art of fuinjutsu, sealing arts, or even teach the brat a new element to rely on, in case his wind jutsus weren't enough to subdue the enemy. Fuinjutsu is the hardest ninja art to master, and he doubted Naruto would be interested in seals, rather than simple exploding tags and storage seals, so he pushed it aside, focusing on more ninjutsu. Now the question was which element to teach. He immediately left out Kaden simply because of his prime affinity being wind. It wouldn't make sense for Naruto to learn two heavily offensive affinities and leave the defense side unprotected. Also thinking about it, Raiden wouldn't be considered either. So that left the Sannin with Doden and Suiden ninjutsu for Naruto to learn for defensive issues. Doden would be his first choice since it is Jiraiya's prime affinity, but he also has knowledge on Suiden techniques and how to learn them. Plus, with Naruto having Fuden at his disposal, Suiden elemental ninjutsu could be very useful. Plus, the brat was still 15 and he could very well be learning how to use Doden techniques in the future. Suddenly, he saw what appeared to be a shift in the wind before he looked at the waterfall, only for it to be sliced in a diagonal sense, probably a result of the wind sword technique. He, then, turned his eyes to the opposite side of the waterfall before smirking as Naruto and Sojiro were engaging in a full-out spar. Whether or not Sojiro was going all out he didn't know, but for Naruto to manage his own against this man was nothing short of impressive. Naruto was using his bow staff while defending from Sojiro's quick and deadly blows, before performing a major backflip just as Sojiro was about to land a vicious kick on his head. While making hand seals in the air, Naruto, then, collected air through his lungs for Fuden Daitapa, wind release, great breakthrough jutsu. Sojiro smiled at the kid's ingenuity, but focused chakra to his feet so as not to be taken away by the wind. After the wind died down, Sojiro unleashed some shurikens, before throwing them in the air and making some hand seals for Fuden Kaden Shuriken, wind release, rotating shuriken jutsu. Upon seeing this, Naruto immediately was sent on edge, seeing that controlling shurikens was a very deadly technique to face. However, he didn't need to wait as suddenly. Sojiro stopped swirling the shurikens near him and sent them all to attack Naruto at the same time. Seeing no other way to escape the technique's grasp, Naruto increased the speed of 4 sequence hand seals and once again exhaled a small gust of air, before controlling the wind chakra to surround him. Fuden K's notate wind release, Wind Shield Jutsu. After the defense dropped, Naruto saw that the shurikens were nowhere in sight, so he rushed to attack Sojiro before he had the opportunity to control other shurikens. He quickly focused chakra to his bow staff to elongate the weapon and began the assault against Sojiro with a new kata he devised. It consisted of a 6-combo hit with the usage of the Cage Bunshin technique. Holding the bow staff with his both hands on Sojiro's chest area, he initiated by hitting the man on his right side, thus making Sojiro lose his air for a second, before Naruto hit him on the left side, thus increasing the pain. Seeing that the man was incapacitated, Naruto then attacked the man's legs with a powerful thrust, before swirling the staff and hitting him on the shoulder. Afterwards, Sojiro managed, beyond the pain of being hit with Naruto's staff, to see that Naruto landed the staff on the ground, before resorting on it for balance as he landed an uppercut kick right on the man's chin, sending him flying straight to the air where a new Naruto was waiting with a sequence of kicks, before landing one on the man's head, thus sending him straight down to suffer the immeasurable pain and agony. Or so he would have, if the Sojiro he attacked was not a Cage Bunshin as well. As soon as the smoke dissipated, Naruto heard claps coming from behind him and he turned to see his Fuden sensei, who in turn was demonstrating an approving smile on his own, considering that Naruto displayed some serious skills. Very impressive, Naruto-kun. That clone of mine took some serious hit. It took a heavy load of my chakra to keep him from vanishing throughout that sequence of yours. I'd correct to assume it's one of your creations. Asked Sojiro, to which Naruto nodded, before focusing chakra once more on the staff to shorten its handle for the blonde to place it inside its holster. Yes, it is Sojiro-sensei. The original one doesn't involve the Cage Bunshin and it ends on the 4th hit aiming the shoulder. So, now what am I going to learn? Asked Naruto, being all enthused, which earned a smile from his sensei in recognition. Actually, Naruto, there isn't much I can teach you that you couldn't get on your own with time. You may not realize that you've been here for 4 months now and you've learned all 3 forms of Fuden manipulation, said Sojiro, before seeing Naruto's bewildered look of realization that his elemental training is over, but Sojiro wasn't far from being silent. It's with satisfaction that I say you managed to complete the training regimen I set for you, and for that, I believe congratulations are in order. Before you, only one ever managed to finish my training, and that was the Yondaime Kazekage. Mikami has his hunger for power soul right now, smiled Sojiro. I appreciate all the training you gave me, Sojiro-sensei, and I hope to improve my skills to be on your level, or at least hope to cope better with it the next time we spar, smiled Naruto, gaining a nod in recognition from his sensei. Believe me, kid, when I say you won't take long to reach my level. You have an advantage everyone would die for, and that's your chakra abundance. By using the Cage Bunshin experience, you could grow by leaps and bounds and probably become the best wind user in all of the elemental nations. I believe you, above protecting those precious to you, would like to set out a name for yourself, isn't it? Asked Sojiro, before he saw Naruto nod, and he continued. Then, you'll be indeed famous. Learning Fuden element is both time and chakra demanding, but anyone who masters the element is presumed to be feared. You remember reading about the tales of Kazekaga's Cage Tenshu, didn't you? He quoted that wind element is mostly known for its unpredictability. One minute it's blowing west and the other it's on the opposite direction. By being a master of the wind, you can become even more unpredictable than you already are, Naruto, and I feel very proud to be the one helping you become the next Cage Tenshu, smiled Sojiro as he saw the beamed expression on Naruto's face. Arigato, sensei, said Naruto as he bowed in respect to his sensei, before he heard the voice of Jiraya approaching. Great, you stay with him for 4 months and bow to him in respect. You stay with me for the duration of our trip and you call me a pervert. What happened to the respect? Grumbled Jiraya, earning a warm laugh from Sojiro, but he soon would have to hold his stomach when Naruto opened his mouth to speak. Why would I call you any differently than what you are, Ero-sensei? You even admit that you're a super pervert, said Naruto, earning a sigh in dismay from Jiraya as he saw Sojiro on the ground bending over, while holding his stomach from laughing so hard. Okay, all jokes aside, Naruto, since your training is over, I believe we overstated our welcome in Sojiro's house. Go pack your things and tomorrow we'll be leaving, said Jiraya, earning a nod from Naruto as he simply walked towards the mansion, thus leaving the 2 elders alone to talk. So, how many he got this time? asked Jiraya, earning a smile from Sojiro as he showed what appeared to be the same disc used to test the strength of the wind affinity. Jiraya could very well note an increase in the number of cuts than last time. 32 cuts total, simply amazing. No matter if he cheats time with the Kage Bunshin, he's a prodigy and you know it. I don't have to repeat myself more than 2 times when explaining the theory and he managed to achieve everything through practice. It's been an interesting last 4 months that I can say for sure, said Sojiro, to which Jiraya smiled. With Naruto After leaving his senseis, Naruto walked calmly towards the mansion. The sun was just setting down and the beautiful orange hue on the sky practically forced a smile on his features. Adding the waterfall on the landscape, it was a picture to be forever kept in his mind. He kind of wished that he wouldn't have to leave so soon. Sojiro-sensei was strict in training, but Naruto could very well see that the man's is as strict as his own drive to be stronger. Also, being acknowledged by such a being was like a boost to Naruto's pride. Nevertheless, he very well knew that for his sake and for Konoha, Naruto needed to become stronger, and as such, he needed much more experience than he gathered since he started his career. He needed to fight against opponents who wouldn't think of holding back in case of an opening like either Sojiro or Jiraiya does. He needed to have a better grasp of the idea of kill or die that every shinobi has to learn throughout his career, and he couldn't learn it here. After arriving at his room, Naruto collected a medium-sized scroll before opening to review a specific kanji. He, then, placed all his clothes on top of the scroll, including some books he earned from Sojiro to improve on Fuden ninjutsu, before focusing on a single-handed seal. Immediately, when a bunch of clothes and books were, now the only thing visible was the same kanji now revolved around some new set of kanjis, meaning that this scroll was already full and therefore unable to use. Just because Jiraiya didn't think to teach him fuinjutsu, doesn't mean he couldn't teach the very basic knowledge, like how to seal his personal belongings inside a scroll. The pervert thought about teaching how to create explosive tags, but then thought against it. After sealing everything inside the scroll, Naruto laid on his bed and looked at the window as the sun was vanishing little by little and it was almost getting dark outside. However, just as the moon appeared, the effects of the battle ran out and soon fatigue appeared. The boy didn't even hear Sojiro's shouts of calling him for some dinner. The next day Once everything was all set, Naruto and Jiraiya set food outside Sojiro's house for the first time in 4 months. It felt a bit awkward for both Naruto and Jiraiya to step in the other dimension, and they had to take some time to adjust to this new feeling. Wow, that was weird, said Naruto as he held his head so that it would stop spinning, a sentiment shared by the pervert. You can say that again. Man, I forgot about this rush of traveling dimensions. Now, let's get going, Naruto. There is a village nearby about 10 miles that we can settle and then continue on our next destination, said Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto as they started walking. Although he didn't say anything, though, Jiraiya couldn't help but smile upon seeing the brat walking, a proud smile on his features, before he saw that the blonde was going to ask him something. So Ero-sensei, where are we going now and what will I be learning? Asked Naruto, earning a smile from Jiraiya. Don't worry about that for now, Naruto. After we settle in, we'll take a nice long bath at the onsen. You know, relax a little bit. I've noticed you didn't let your body heal from the heavy strain that Sojiro placed you in, so we're still overdue some relaxation period. Remember, we still have lots of time to learn more techniques and train more, explained Jiraiya, to which Naruto nodded, while looking forward their destination. Sojiro-sensei was sure strict, but in the end, I really managed to learn 10 new techniques that will surely prove useful in the future. I guess you're right, then. Let's relax a bit, said Naruto, before hearing the pervert snort upon hearing what he thought he did. Well, this is a first. Uzumaki Naruto just wanting to pass training for relaxing. The world is at an end, I can see it, dramatized Jiraiya, before smiling in delight upon hearing Naruto grumbling some incoherent curse words aimed at his sensei. What he could say, he just loved to tease with the brat. It didn't take long until they arrived at the village and settled inside an inn which happened to have a vast public onsen for the two to rest their bodies, well, in Naruto's case anyway. The pervert let out a sigh in relaxation as he let the hot water relax every muscle of his body, while hanging his arms outside the pool. He, then, looked at Naruto only to see that the blonde was in deep thought once again. Jiraiya didn't like when Naruto did this, and it was plainly obvious the reason. Upon being asked, Naruto would always show some level of doubt regarding the idea of relaxing while he could be training instead. Actually, Jiraiya feared that the boy would become too power-hungry and immediately set out to talk to the boy, like hearing the boy's thoughts on these troubling subjects. "Naruto, tell me what's wrong. You don't seem to be so relaxed," asked Jiraiya, before seeing Naruto taking a glimpse at the pervert from the corner of his eyes, before looking back to the water in dismay. "Oh, it's nothing really. I just wished that I would figure out what was wrong with me beforehand, then half the trouble Team 7 went through wouldn't happen. I'm not saying I'm blaming myself for Sasuke's defection, that's his own doing, whether or not he was being subjected to the cursed seal's will. I could have covered more ground at the academy and probably learn every bit of the necessary information, thus leaving space for the more advanced material I should be reading for my age. Things like accuracy, politics, traps, basic taijutsu, basic genjutsu, all of them I've only managed to learn after the whole Sasuke's defection incident," said Naruto, while still looking down, clearly not letting go of his feeling of regret. Jiraiya for his turn at least had the decency to nod while believing that at least this time is different. However, the brat was delusional and he needed to hear a truth or two. "Naruto, you better listen intently to what I'm going to say and you better throw that thought of yours away. Maybe, you should have paid more attention at school, maybe not. Anyway, what happened in the past is unchangeable and it won't matter to sulk on it. This feeling of regret you possess is out of line, you can't just hope that things were different in the past. What happened then must remain as such, what you must worry about is the present and the future. You're now managed to cover the entire elemental manipulation training in only 4 months where only Junin-level ninja manages to truly master," explained Jiraiya, before he saw Naruto looking at him, listening to what his mentor have to say. "Dwelling on the past will only cause you to be bitter and not trustworthy. You want to change, then change for here on out, become the ninja of your dreams and we'll train harder to achieve that dream," said Jiraiya, before smiling upon seeing Naruto smiling as well. "One condition, though, brat, if you say this to me once more, you'll be riding on top of Gamabunta, until you learn it the right way," smiled Jiraiya, which in turn earned a nod in acceptance from Naruto. "Arigato, sensei," said Naruto, though shockingly as the situation seemed to Jiraiya, he didn't say a word. After an hour and a half, sensei and student were to get some dinner at the only restaurant in town, which made all types of food. Naruto and Jiraiya ordered a sushi special combo that was actually enough for 4 people, but Naruto guaranteed the owner that he would even request more after it was over, which earned a chuckle from Jiraiya. "So, Aro-sensei, what's next?" asked Naruto, earning a nod from Jiraiya, since Naruto managed not to do any kind of exercise today. "Well, let's see. You managed in 1 year and a half cover taijutsu, bow staff, genjutsu and Fuden ninjutsu. You already learned how to increase the Rasengan and I expect you to keep improving with time. What's left basically, what I can teach you actually, is either the art of sealing called Fuinjutsu or a second ninjutsu element. Of course, you still need to train your Fuden techniques to get adjusted to them and learn how to use them in different scenarios, so we're going to take the remaining of this year for you to cover all these fighting scenarios. The last year will surely be spent with Suiden manipulation," said Jiraiya, earning a questioned look from Naruto. "Why Suiden specifically? I know that Kaden and Raiden are out of the picture, since they are heavy offensive elements, but what about Doden manipulation?" asked Naruto, before seeing the sensei smile as the sushi dish was served along with some tea for the two. "Indeed, out of the other elements, I was in doubt between Suiden and Doden. However, there is a new concept of ninjutsu nowadays called collaboration jutsus. It consists of 2 shinobis or, in the rarest cases, 1 shinobi, performing 2 techniques that merge with one another, creating a more powerful and more destructive technique. Now, there are certain elements susceptible for the collaboration jutsus. For example, by merging a grand fireball technique with the great breakthrough jutsu, the wind will double the fireball size. Fire jutsus are more suitable because they can merge with Fuden, Doden and Raiden, leaving Suiden of course for obvious reasons. Suiden is the next best for collaboration jutsus, being able to merge with all 3 except Kaden for the same reasons, with me so far. asked Jiraya, before seeing Naruto eat some sushi and nod for the pervert to continue. Your prime affinity is wind, and as such, you can use collaboration jutsus with only Sweden, because wind nullifies lightning and it doesn't do anything with earth-based techniques. In the end, if you were to learn collaboration jutsus, the only other element suitable for doing so would be Sweden, explained Jiraya as he ingested a tuna sushi. I understand, however you said yourself that a collaboration jutsu needs 2 shinobis. How can I do it on my own? Asked Naruto, earning a nod from Jiraya, since he was expecting this question. Indeed, in theory, the collaboration jutsu are performed by 2 shinobis. However, Naruto is one of those rare cases I mentioned before. You do remember how you used Kage Bunshin to train Fuden techniques, didn't you? Then, you do realize that you could use the collaboration jutsu with your own clone, said Jiraya, before he saw Naruto smile at a new attack possibility, but Jiraya wasn't finished. Also, because of your wind affinity, your defensive ninjutsu is severely limited to only the K's no Tate technique. With Sweden ninjutsu, you could learn more defensive techniques that could save your life as well as those you protect in the future. So, with all that explained, Sweden is the best element to teach you right now, understood? Asked Jiraya, to which Naruto nodded as he ingested the last sushi, before calling the waiter to bring in a new set of sushi, to which Jiraya smiled and asked for some tea as well. A couple miles away from their position pacing from trees at unimaginable speed and almost out of breath, Azuki Yugo was trying to escape the wrath of what appeared to be 2 shinobis from the Iwa Anbu forces called Boulder. Another one of her S-ranked suicidal missions headed towards Iwa, where Konoha found suspicious information about a powerful missing nin threatening to border into Fire Country. She along with 2 other Anbus went to investigate, only for a brutal assault to occur before the Anbu team managed to kill the missing nin. Their price though was too high, as 2 of Konoha Anbu was killed by the same Boulder Anbu who was supposed to kill the missing nin. Now, although Yugo was being chased for no reason, those Boulder Anbus were maniacs and wouldn't stop at nothing to have a hold of her to kill her, or even worse if one of them decides to have his way with her beforehand. Along the way, she was dodging with the best of her abilities the incoming shurikens and mud balls. However, her chakra was almost entirely used against the missing nin and she didn't have much to use for escape. Also, Konoha was too far away for her to even consider calling for backup. Her alternatives were wearing thin, before she views a small village with maybe 10 or 15 houses for her to hide. However, as soon as Yugo changed her course of action, she cursed the heavens after one single mud ball hit her on her left leg, and because of her immediate pain, she couldn't focus on landing on the next tree, thus following mercilessly on the ground with a heavy thud, before spitting some blood from her mouth. Just as the ninjas landed near her, she knew her time was up. Her legs were heavily bruised because of the Doryu Dango technique and a couple of ribs were broken because of the fall. Not to mention that she was almost out of chakra as she heard one of them talking about what she feared. You've been a very bad girl, you know. And bad girls deserve a punishment, laughed the one from the right, earning a snarl in anger from Yugo, who wanted to be killed already, not raped. Oh Matsuro, finish her off already. We have to get back to Iwa, said the other, but this Matsuro guy waved him off and kneeled down next to Yugo before he removed the woman's mask. She could see from the guy's face that he enjoyed seeing her angered face, and it was plainly obvious that he wouldn't be satisfied until he did the worst deeds to her body possible. However, before Matsuro managed to take her pants off, everyone was stunned to hear some shouting Fuden Repusho wind release. Gale wind palm jutsu before 2 focused jets of wind hit Matsuro head on, thus sending him straight towards his comrade, before both were sent flying. Yugo was at loss of what just happened, before he saw what appeared to be a blond man jumping in front of her as in protecting her while facing the Boulder Anbu. She, then, sensed a hand on her shoulder, before turning her face to see one of the Sannin Jiraya. Jiraya-sama, what are you doing here? Asked Yugo, before Jiraya ushered her to save her strength. Easy there Anbu. I don't know your name, but right now we must get you into safety, said Jiraya, before he saw Naruto standing against the Anbu members. Ero-sensei, take her away from here, I'll take care of them, said Naruto as he started a large sequence of hand seals. Jiraiya smiled at his student and took Yugo with him back to the village, who by now was unconscious due to chakra exhaustion and utter pain on her legs and ribs. However, she stayed awake long enough to see the blonde preparing for an attack. "We're not letting that bitch go, you old geezer," charged Matsuro, until he looked at the blonde in front of him finishing the hand sequence, before whispering the name to the winds. Futen Saraisu no Tatsumaki, wind release. Slicing tornado jutsu. Naruto exhaled a strong gust of wind through his mouth, before it transformed into a huge hurricane and charged against the Anbis, who didn't have the time to evade because of the proximity and got hit dead on. Once inside the hurricanes, Matsuro and his partner began receiving multiple slashes from every side, while Naruto took the opportunity to follow Jiraya to their hotel, not even bothering to see that the ninjas' bodies were like chopped meat sprawled across the forest. The next day. The next day, the weather wasn't as nice as the day before. It was raining heavily and Naruto was playing some shugi with Jiraya, while waiting for the woman to wake up. After placing her on a bed, Jiraya managed to contact a local doctor who helped cure Yugao's wounds and even wrap the place where she broke her ribs with bandages. Right after arriving at the hotel, Naruto questioned Jiraya about what happened to her, to which the Sannin could only surmise it as a failed mission. Jiraya also mentioned that he communicated with Konoha about the female Anbu and received info regarding her status. Also, Naruto heard Jiraya talking about an order coming from the Hokage ordering the female Anbu to take a long vacation and to remain under Jiraya's care until he and Naruto returned from the training trip. So, while watching the heavy rain outside, Naruto and Jiraya were playing shugi, unaware of the fact that Yugo already recovered consciousness. Slowly opening her eyes, her senses became to respond as she managed to hear the sound of rain outside. Immediately, she woke up alarmed, fearing that she was captured, only to look at an empty room, before she heard the same voice she heard yesterday. "Ah, it seems you woke up. We're worried you'd take a while to do that," said Jiraya, alerting Yugo of both his and the blonde's presence. It took a while, but Yugo remembered where she saw the blonde before and also realized that he was the one that saved her from being raped by the shinobis from Iwa. Looking below her sheets, she was relieved to see that her Anbu clothes were still on, although they looked better before. Suddenly, the pain from her broken ribs hit her and she gasped from it while unconsciously placing her hand near the bandaged area. "Once we brought you in, I found a doctor who took great care of your wounds. You should be fine within a week," smiled Jiraya, earning a nod from Yugo, while she saw the blonde smiling at her as well. "Well, it seems that an appreciation is in order, Uzumaki, isn't it?" asked Yugo before Naruto nodded. "Uzumaki Naruto is the name and you don't have to thank me." Ero-sensei here sensed the heavy usage of chakra and told us to see what was happening. "How are you feeling?" asked Naruto. "My ribs still hurts, excuse me Jiraiya-sama, I need to contact Konoha of my fail," said Yugo, but was interrupted by Jiraiya. "No need. I've already contacted Tsunade about your status and she issued an order to you. It's in this scroll," said Jiraiya, before he gave the scroll for the woman to read. "Yugo-san, I hear from Jiraya's intel that you managed to complete the mission you and 2 other Anbis were sent to. He also said that you're badly injured and would have been killed if he and Naruto didn't stop the Anbis. Also, since he didn't see you with the other, I will assume them to be missing in action, until further information. Now, it's came to my attention, that you have participated in all of Konoha's Anbu suicidal missions and in each one of them you returned with bad bruises and chakra exhaustion. You're one of this village's finest example of what kunoichi should be, and as such I cannot afford to lose you. As of right now, I'm issuing a long-term mission and it consists of staying with Naruto and Jiraiya until they are scheduled to return from their training trip in 1.5 years. Goddamn Hokage. After reading it, Yugo suddenly lost her focus and started looking down to the ground. She received a new mission which didn't involve her sacrificing her life in near-death situations, thus gaining enough time for the old tears and scars of her life to appear once more. She, then, looked at the two. So it appears that we're expending a lot of time together Naruto, Jiraiya-sama. What are we going to do for 1.5 years? Asked Yugo, to which Jiraiya smiled. You are to rest lady, doctor's instructions. We will remain here until you feel ready to walk, after that we're going to see country. There is a place there where I intend to teach Naruto here about Sweden manipulation. For now, though, please get some rest. Our lunch will be brought here, so we don't have to leave the room, said Jiraya, before he heard the sound of the door knocking and opened for the attendant to leave the lunch on the bedroom table, before leaving, with Jiraya following. Where are you going, Ero-sensei? Asked Naruto as he got up to check the lunch. Yugo in the meanwhile was wondering about the term Naruto used to address one of the Sannin. One of my spies reached me regarding some news, his place is not so far away from here. Help her eat, okay. Said Jiraiya, before closing the door leaving the two alone. Naruto, then, inspected the food and then turned to the Anbu. Well, I don't know if you like these steamy vegetables or not, but Ero-sensei said I have to stop eating ramen and eat some healthy food. I'm sorry but I don't know your name, asked Naruto. Actually, on normal occasions, sharing my identity would ruin my chances of being in Anbu Corps, but considering the situation, I guess it's okay. My name is Azuki Yugo and to answer your first question, I do like steamy vegetables, but I'm afraid you'll have to help me, just by lifting my arm, my ribs hurts, said Yugo, but something about this whole ordeal pissed her off. The reason was that she was kind of a self-reliant person. Naruto, though, didn't seem to mind as he grabbed the dish and one hashi to feed her. As he sat down next to her, Yugo turned to address him. I was kind of curious about how you address Jiraiya-sama, asked Yugo, before seeing Naruto leave out a little laugh. Oh come on, I'm sure you've been to one of Konoha's onsens before, right? There isn't a single woman in the elemental nations that wasn't piqued by the almighty Gamma Sennin. That's the reason for his nickname. Plus, it's nice to see his face after I call him that, laughed Naruto while grabbing a broccolis and positioning for Yugo to eat it, to which she smiled and ate the vegetable. Yugo found it strange about this feeling of peace she felt upon seeing him laugh and also understood why Naruto called Jiraiya like that, from all the times she had to leave the onsen because of the man peeping at the women. So, what can you tell me about the Anbu? I heard from Ero-sensei that they are the elite of shinobi in Konoha, so one must be really good to join the rank isn't it? Asked Naruto, earning a nod from Yugo as she accepted another broccoli, before swallowing. Well, you have to be at least Junin to join our ranks and even so, it's necessary to have complementary skills that make you different from the rest. Are you interested? Asked Yugo, before seeing Naruto nod, but with some reluctance as expected from everyone. I don't know, I'm still a genin and probably won't be a chunin until I come back from this trip, it'll take even more time for me to be a junin. Said Naruto as he grabbed one of the broccolis and ingested it before he offered one for the woman who gladly accepted and ate it. Suddenly, one memory hit her and she realized Naruto was facing two Anbu shinobi on his own. It was very impressive you taking on those Anbus. Before going unconscious, I noticed the Fuden jutsu you used to save me, stated Yugo, before seeing Naruto blush in appraisal. After all, it was the first time a woman praised him for his abilities and not smash him in the head like Sakura did. Well, Fuden it's my prime affinity and I know wide-scale jutsus that leaves the enemy no alternative but face it head-on and hope to survive. Those Anbu sure didn't. I have a question, though, Konoha's policy is about teamwork, but you're alone against those two. What happened to your team? Asked Naruto, but the lost look on Yugo's face told him everything and he feared something back happened. Two other Anbu members were sent along with me for what we advanced shinobi calls suicidal missions. We managed to defeat an A-ranked missing nin that was trying to enter Fire Country, however those Anbus from Iwa wanted to kill the man, hence why they killed my two comrades. I didn't have enough chakra so I fled and that's where you and Jiraiya-sama found me, explained Yugo, earning a nod from Naruto as he finished his plate and then placed at the table. I never lost a comrade, so I don't know what's like. I'm really sorry, though, for what happened. Were they close to you? Asked Naruto, before seeing Yugo negate with her head. No, they weren't, at least not more than colleagues, said Yugo, but stopped while unable to form the words to express that they died in the line of their duty. Ever since her fiancé's death, she has been throwing her life at risk so that she would forget the immeasurable pain that fills her heart every day, but while she wanted nothing more than this, she didn't want people to go down with her if such a thing occurred. For some unknown reason, every time she has been close to death, but never she walked towards the light to finally meet her dead boyfriend once more. You don't need to explain it to me. Ah, do you want anything else? I see the rain is already subsiding, so I'll prepare for my bow staff exercise routine, said Naruto. Well, Resting doesn't really suits me any good, so you could help me get up and take me with you, smiled Yugo, earning a nod from Naruto as he made a familiar hand seal, before two cage buncheons appeared next to Yugo, before helping her get up and go outside. Yugo was surprised with the usage of cage buncheon, but didn't say anything. Upon arriving at a clear which happened to be the hotel garden, Naruto's clones helped Yugo to sit on a bench nearby, before being dispelled as she got to watch Naruto pick his weapon, before initiating his dance against the imaginary opponents. While watching the martial arts showdown, Yugo just felt the need to smile as the scenery before her. After the run stopped, the sun's power opened the skies and forced his sunlight to illuminate the once clouded day. Also, since Naruto's hair was that golden blonde, the sunlight actually increased the color tone to a point that Yugo wondered if it was shining. Also, she could see the smile displayed on his face as he went through some really advanced katas of the bow staff style peculiar to the Sarutobi clan. In fact, any shinobi who wanted to explore the use of weapons in order to use it as an extension of the body must practice daily to a point that using it becomes second nature, and Yugo was surprised to see a person so focused, besides herself, and for all her might, she couldn't finish her train of thought. Her heart hurt immediately, thus preventing her from comparing Naruto's drive to become better with the weapon in a similar way to her deceased fiancé. She was so engrossed in this train of thought, that she didn't realize a new presence has just arrived. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? You know, the Sandame was my sensei, and not once did I see this level of dedication regarding the bow staff style. I guess Naruto has taken a liking to it, said Jiraya as he took a seat next to the momentarily surprised woman, before he spoke again. I thought I told that you needed to rest, didn't I? Asked Jiraya, earning a nod from Yugo before she looked back at Naruto, who just finished one advanced move that consisted of him extending the staff over his shoulder while extending his arms, holding it and swirling his body, taking as many enemies as possible with it. I don't appreciate resting in a room for one whole week. Besides, this is not the first time I'm in this situation, said Yugo, to which Jiraya nodded. I know that. I've confirmed with my old teammate about your status. Azuki Yugo, Anbu captain level shinobi with an impressive record of successful missions, only losing to former Anbu captains Uchiha Itachi and Hitaki Kakashi. Was soon to be married with Tokubetsu Junin Gecko Hayate, but he was lost during the Sand Sound invasion. Ever since, you've went to one suicidal missions after another, barely escaping out alive in probably the majority of them. Reported Jiraya, but he stopped when he saw the foregoing look on her face, before he switched to Naruto, who was still practicing. I somehow knew that you didn't go for some information. Instead you asked for my file. As to why, I wonder. What business you have with my life and what missions I do take. With all due respect, Jiraiya-sama, you don't have the authority to, said Yugo, but stopped from fear of overstepping her boundaries, but Jiraiya only smiled and landed a hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry if I intruded in your life like this, but I needed to know a thing or two about you, because of Naruto, stated Jiraiya. If you're asking whether or not I hate him for the Kyuubi, all you had to do was ask. And no, I don't hate him, I never did. I was merely a child at the time and my parents were samurais on the moment of joining Konoha. No one precious to me died because of him, and if it did, I'd know the difference between the fox demon and the one who keeps it jailed. But there is more to it, isn't it? This mission isn't only for training him, asked Yugo, before she saw the pervert nod in positive with his head. Since you're in Anbu, I'm sure you heard of this new Akatsuki organization, asked Jiraiya, before Yugo nodded, and he continued. They consist of S-ranked missing nins from all the hidden villages with the purpose of collecting the tailed demons, and Uchiha Itachi happens to be one of their members, along with former member of the Swordsmen of the Mist Hoshikage Kisame. Both extremely powerful shinobis, being on par with my skills, and they happen to be the ones after Naruto in order to get the beast from within his stomach. This mission is both for his training and his protection against the Akatsuki. So, I saw your file in order to assess your skills in helping both with his protection and his training. I understood you have a prime affinity for Sweden and you're one of Konoha's top weapon user, which makes you perfect for teach him improve, explained Jiraiya, to which Yugo nodded. Well, seeing as I'm here with you two for the duration of this trip, I might as well do something. However, if Akatsuki appears, I won't be much help against them, stated Yugo. You won't need to actually. They won't attack him with me around. Last time, they tried luring me away from Naruto so that they could move in for the capture. However, in case they manage to find us and move in for a fight, I'll hold Itachi, since he's the most dangerous one. You'll pair with Naruto against Kisame. With the brat's long-scale jutsus, he can use it to escape and I would follow shortly afterwards with my toad ninjutsu, explained Jiraya, earning a nod from Yugo while she was watching Naruto now switching to Fudan practice as he began to control the wind to swirl around his body. Suddenly, just as Naruto switched to a different hand seal, the once small gust of wind transformed into a hurricane, before the blonde relinquished his control and the once gathered wind was dispersed through the air. I have a feeling, though, that in a few years' time, he will be a force not to be trifled with. I'm still dazzled by his control over the wind element, said Yugo, to which Jiraiya nodded. Even though I say he has the skills of a Chunin, inside I know that he's stronger than a low-level Junin. By the time we come back, he'll be strong enough to give the Akatsuki a run for their money, stated Jiraiya. As the scene shifted to Naruto once again focusing the wind around him, but now for a different hand seal as suddenly a strong gust of wind was sent forward, but with not so much chakra, but more control, so as not to damage the hotel garden. While watching, Yugo couldn't help but think about her next year and a half and how much of an influence will Naruto leave on her, if what she felt earlier was any indication. 1 week later 1 week later. The group composed of a Sannin, an Anbu captain and a Genin, set out for their next destination. Yugo did let go of the Anbu clothes, since it would be too inconspicuous to walk around wearing that without her mask, and she purchased a new set of clothes, consisting of black cargo paints, a new pair of gray boots, and a fishnet shirt covered with a Junin-style vest. During the course of the week, she and Naruto managed to form a nice level of bonding, sharing conversations about people they know, shinobi skills and even some gossip about her ex-Anbu captain and Naruto's Junin sensei, who actually were the same person. While sharing those conversations, Yugo found strange that Naruto managed to maintain a decent level of conversation with her, because she knew that those of his age usually focused on more trivial manner. Naruto explained to her about some aspects of his life, albeit not the darkest part, but just a glimpse of it, which urged him to learn things that he wouldn't have to, until the right moment, thus getting a nod from Yugo in understanding. After all, growing up alone and without assistance was tough for anyone. To top that, he was also hated for something he didn't do. Naruto also told some aspects of his training. Even the part about him learning what was like to take a man's life, even though he was already beaten, to which Yugo nodded in understanding, since it's a very important fear all shinobi have and can lead to unexpected surprises if one couldn't find it in his right mind to do what was needed. The last member of the group actually remained distant throughout the week, only watching with a smirk the interaction between Naruto and Yugo. He knew from Tsunade regarding the reasons for her choice in performing suicidal missions, but after a week of bonding, he could very well see that Naruto was indeed having an impact in her way of thinking. After all, because of what Naruto went through, he could socialize and maybe even understand others' pain better than anybody else, hence why the pervert believed that Naruto could be the one to wake her from her fiancé's loss. Suddenly, though, the perverted mind of his clicked at the possibility of a new bestseller as he grabbed his little notebook and began scribbling a few ideas. By seeing this, though, Naruto had the decency to sigh in dismay and explain to Yugo that sometimes he have some sort of breakthrough about a new idea for his porn and, then, he begins to write things while giggling like a fangirl upon seeing an Uchiha. Snorting in realization of that damn book, Yugo couldn't help but shiver at the possibility of her being a character in this new book of his, a thought surprisingly shared by Naruto as they walked towards the place where Naruto would learn sweetened manipulation and better improve his wind techniques. Well, that was it. If you guys thought that Yugo and Naruto would meet in this chapter, you're right. I'm thinking of ending his trip in maybe a chapter or two and move on with the beginning of a similar, but obviously different version of the Shippuden series, my version of it. With a much stronger Naruto and a new bond, what new twists will be expected from the original series? I'll leave this thought for you guys to work on it. See you all next chapter. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.